Stop for a moment. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. Because there is something about your life that deserves your complete honesty. And most people never give themselves that honesty. They keep moving, keep distracting themselves, keep postponing the uncomfortable questions. But sooner or later, everyone reaches a moment where they feel it. A quiet pressure in the back of their mind. A feeling that something about their life is not what it could be, not what it should be, not what it was meant to become. Maybe you have felt it before. Late at night, when the distractions disappear, when the noise fades, when there is nothing left but your own thoughts. And suddenly a question appears, a question most people try to ignore. Am I wasting my potential? That question is dangerous, not because it is wrong, but because it is often painfully accurate. Think about it. How many ideas have you had that you never acted on? How many goals did you once feel excited about that slowly disappeared? How many times did you promise yourself, "This is the year I will finally change things"? But then the months passed. Life became busy. Distractions appeared. Comfort returned. And the promise quietly faded. Not dramatically, not suddenly, just quietly. This is how most dreams disappear. Not through failure, through neglect, through delay, through the slow erosion of discipline. And here is the part many people do not want to hear. Your potential does not disappear because the world stops you. It disappears because you stop yourself. Every time you choose distraction over growth. Every time you choose comfort over discipline. Every time you tell yourself you will start tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next week becomes next year. And one day, you wake up and realize something frightening. Years have passed, and the life you imagined never arrived. Not because it was impossible, but because it was postponed too many times. Now listen carefully. This moment right here is where the direction of a life can change. Because once you become aware of this pattern, you have two choices. The first choice is the easiest. You ignore the realization. You return to familiar habits. You continue living the same patterns. And life continues exactly as it has. Predictable, comfortable, unchanged. But the second choice is very different. The second choice requires courage. It requires honesty. It requires looking at your life and saying something powerful. I refuse to live below my potential. That sentence may seem simple. But the moment someone truly means it, their behavior begins to change. They stop waiting for motivation. They stop negotiating with their discipline. They begin raising their standards. Because standards determine direction. If your standards are low, your results will be low. If your standards are average, your results will be average. But when someone raises their standards, something remarkable begins to happen. Their habits change. Their focus sharpens. Their expectations grow. And gradually, their life begins moving toward something larger. This is where the transformation begins. Not with money, not with opportunity, but with a decision to stop drifting through life and start directing it. Because drifting is easy. Drifting requires no discipline, no responsibility, no growth. But drifting also leads somewhere predictable. It leads to the same life most people experience. A life where potential is never fully explored. A life where dreams slowly shrink to match reality. A life where years pass quietly and nothing extraordinary ever happens. But directing your life is different. Directing your life requires discipline. It requires focus. It requires the willingness to become uncomfortable in order to grow. And that is the moment most people step back. Because growth demands effort. Growth demands patience. Growth demands responsibility. But here is the truth that changes everything. The discomfort of discipline is temporary. The regret of wasted potential lasts far longer. Which is why some people eventually make a decision that separates them from the rest of the world. They decide that their potential deserves to be explored. They decide that their future deserves intention. They decide that the version of themselves capable of greatness deserves a chance to exist. And once that decision is made, something inside them shifts. They stop living reactively. They start living intentionally. They stop asking, "What do I feel like doing today?" And they begin asking, "What does the future I want require from me today?" That question changes everything. Because once someone begins living according to the future they want, rather than the comfort they feel, their life begins to move in a completely different direction. And that shift, that moment when someone stops drifting and starts directing their life, is where the real story begins. Because once that moment happens, the next realization appears. And it is a realization that most people feel, but rarely question. Look carefully at the world around you. In the same cities, under the same economy, during the same era, some individuals quietly build extraordinary wealth. Let us begin with an observation that most people feel, but rarely question. Look carefully at the world around you, in the same cities, under the same economy, during the same era. Some individuals quietly build extraordinary wealth. Not once, but repeatedly, while millions of others spend their entire lives working, striving, trying, yet never break free from financial pressure. And the strange thing is, the difference between these two groups is rarely intelligence. It is rarely talent. And it is almost never luck. The real difference is something far less visible, something quiet, something deeply internal. It is discipline, but not the type of discipline most people imagine. Most people think discipline means forcing yourself to work harder, waking up earlier, grinding longer, pushing through exhaustion. But the discipline that creates wealth is far more subtle. It is the discipline of thinking differently, the discipline of seeing the world differently, the discipline of refusing to follow the emotional reactions that control most people. Because if you observe the average person closely, you will notice something interesting. Most people do not live by decisions. They live by impulses. If they feel motivated, they work. If they feel tired, they stop. If they feel uncertain, they hesitate. If they feel discouraged, they quit. Their actions are constantly changing because their emotions are constantly changing. But the individuals who build wealth operate under a completely different system. They do not follow emotions. They follow principles. And principles create stability. Imagine two ships leaving the same harbor. The first ship is guided by the wind. Wherever the wind pushes, the ship drifts. Some days the wind helps, some days it harms. But the ship has no control over its direction. The second ship is guided by a compass. Storms may appear, waves may grow large, but the captain always knows the direction. And eventually, that ship reaches its destination. Your discipline acts as that compass. Without it, life becomes reactive. With it, life becomes directed. Now here's the interesting part. Most people believe discipline is painful. But the truth is, lack of discipline is far more painful. Lack of discipline creates financial stress. Lack of discipline creates regret. Lack of discipline creates years of wondering, what could my life have been? But disciplined individuals rarely experience that question, because they are constantly shaping their future intentionally. They do not wait for motivation. They do not wait for the perfect moment. They act according to the person they have decided to become. And that decision changes everything, because the moment someone decides who they are becoming, their actions begin to align with that identity. Consider a simple example. Imagine someone who decides, I am the type of person who creates value. That single identity shift changes how they think. They begin asking different questions. Instead of asking, how can I make money? They ask, what problem can I solve? Instead of asking, what job should I take? They ask, what skill should I master? Instead of asking, how can I survive? They ask, how can I build? Those questions transform the direction of a life. Because wealth is rarely created by chasing money. Wealth is created by building value. And value requires patience. It requires learning. It requires discipline. Think about a sculptor for a moment. A sculptor does not create a masterpiece in a single day. They begin with a rough block of stone, unimpressive, heavy, unformed, day after day. They chip away at it. At first, nothing remarkable appears, just small fragments falling to the ground. But slowly, shapes begin to form, details begin to emerge, and eventually, the statue reveals itself. The masterpiece was not built instantly. It was revealed gradually through consistent effort. Your life develops the same way. Most people want immediate transformation, immediate success, immediate wealth. But meaningful success grows slowly at first, almost invisibly. Which is why patience becomes one of the most powerful disciplines. Because patience allows progress to compound, and compounding is one of the most extraordinary forces in the world. A small improvement repeated daily becomes a massive transformation over time. One new skill learned this year may double your opportunities next year. One disciplined habit practiced daily may completely transform your future. But most people abandon the process too early. They expect results immediately. And when results take time, they assume the effort is not working. But successful individuals understand something powerful. The external world always lags behind internal growth. First, your thinking evolves. Then your habits evolve. Then your results evolve. This sequence cannot be reversed. And once you accept that truth, something remarkable happens. You stop chasing immediate rewards. You start building long-term momentum. You start asking deeper questions. Questions like, What kind of person must I become to build the life I want? Because the person you become will ultimately determine the life you experience. If you become disciplined, opportunity follows. If you become reliable, trust follows. If you become valuable, wealth follows. But none of these things appear instantly. They appear through repetition, through patience, through the quiet discipline of consistent growth. Now imagine something. Imagine the version of yourself 5 years from now. If you developed discipline in your thinking, your habits, and your decisions. Imagine waking up with clarity, making decisions with confidence, recognizing opportunities that others overlook, building skills that continuously increase your value. That future version of you is not created by luck. It is created by daily discipline. Small actions repeated long enough to reshape your identity. And once your identity changes, your life begins to follow. Because the world ultimately responds to the person you have become, not the person you wish to be, not the person you imagine someday becoming, but the person you consistently demonstrate yourself to be, every single day. And that is the quiet difference between those who build wealth and those who spend their lives wondering how others did it. There is a moment in every person's life when a quiet realization begins to form. At first, it is subtle, almost unnoticeable. But once it appears, you can never see the world the same way again. The realization is this: wealth is not simply the result of hard work. Millions of people work hard every single day, yet remain financially trapped for decades. The real difference between those who struggle and those who prosper lies in something deeper. It lies in how they think about value, time, and opportunity. Most people grow up believing that money is earned only through effort. Work more hours, earn more money, stop working, and the money stops. This idea seems logical at first, but if you observe the world carefully, you will notice something strange. The people who work the most hours are often the people who earn the least. Meanwhile, many of the wealthiest individuals do not work endless hours at all. So what explains this difference? The answer lies in a fundamental shift in thinking. People who build wealth stop thinking only in terms of labor. They begin thinking in terms of leverage. Leverage is one of the most powerful ideas in the world. It means creating systems where one action produces results repeatedly. Imagine a carpenter building a table. Once the table is finished, the work is done. The carpenter must start again to earn more money. But imagine someone who designs a tool that helps thousands of carpenters work faster. That single idea can create value again and again, long after the original effort. This is leverage. Wealth grows when your effort multiplies itself. This multiplication can happen through ideas, through technology, through systems, through investments. But it always begins with a change in perspective. Instead of asking, "How can I work more?" wealthy thinkers ask, "How can I create something that continues producing value?" This single question opens the door to an entirely different way of seeing the world. Suddenly, opportunities appear where others see ordinary tasks. A problem becomes a potential solution waiting to be built. An inconvenience becomes a business idea. A repeated frustration becomes a system waiting to be improved. And once your mind begins thinking this way, something powerful happens. You stop seeing the world as a place where you must survive. You begin seeing it as a place where you can build. Now here is where discipline becomes essential again, because thinking differently requires resisting the habits of the crowd. Most people follow patterns they never question. They pursue security. They follow familiar paths. They choose the options that feel safe in the short term. But the path that feels safest today often becomes the path of limitation tomorrow. Wealth builders understand this. They do not chase comfort. They pursue growth. Growth often feels uncomfortable. Learning new skills requires effort. Building new systems requires patience. Solving difficult problems requires persistence. But these challenges are not obstacles. They are the very activities that expand your capability. And capability is the true source of wealth. Because the more capable you become, the more valuable your thinking becomes. The more valuable your thinking becomes, the more opportunities appear around you. Now consider another powerful difference between the wealthy mindset and the average mindset. The average mindset focuses on consumption. What can I buy? What can I enjoy? What can I afford today? But the wealth mindset focuses on creation. What can I build? What can I improve? What can I design that did not exist before? This shift from consumption to creation transforms the trajectory of a life. Because consumers spend money, creators generate value, and value eventually attracts wealth. Think about a farmer planting seeds again. A farmer understands something most people forget. You cannot harvest what you never plant. If you want crops in the future, you must invest effort in the present. You must plant seeds, nurture them, protect them, and wait patiently. Wealth works the same way. Every skill you develop is a seed. Every idea you explore is a seed. Every system you build is a seed. Some seeds grow quickly. Others take years to mature. But the individuals who plant seeds consistently eventually walk through fields of opportunity. Meanwhile, those who never plant seeds spend their lives hoping for harvests that never arrive. This is why long-term thinking becomes such a powerful advantage. Most people focus only on immediate rewards. They want results today. But the wealth mindset focuses on compounding progress. Compounding is extraordinary. Small improvements, repeated consistently, produce massive results over time. A skill improved by just a few % each month can transform your value within a few years. A business improved gradually can grow far beyond its original size. An investment allowed to compound patiently can multiply many times over. But compounding requires one thing above all else: time. And time rewards those who begin early, remain consistent, and refuse to abandon the process. Now ask yourself something honestly. Are you thinking only about today? Or are you designing the next decade of your life? Because the difference between those two perspectives is enormous. One creates short-term survival. The other creates long-term prosperity. Wealth builders think in decades. They ask questions like, what skills will make me more valuable 5 years from now? What systems could produce income for the next 10 years? What knowledge should I master today that others are ignoring? Those questions reshape the future. Because when you begin thinking long-term, your decisions change. You invest in growth rather than quick rewards. You build systems rather than temporary income. You create value rather than chase money. And over time, those decisions compound into something remarkable. A life where opportunities multiply, where progress accelerates, where wealth becomes the natural result of the value you create. This is the wealth mindset shift. The moment you stop asking how to survive and start asking how to build. And once that shift occurs, the world begins to reveal possibilities you never noticed before. Because wealth was never hidden from you. It was simply waiting for you to see the world differently. There is a difficult truth about money that most people avoid thinking about. Not because it is complicated, but because it is uncomfortable. Most people do not remain financially stuck because of bad luck. They remain stuck because of patterns. Patterns of thinking. Patterns of decision-making. Patterns of reacting to life in ways that quietly sabotage their own progress. These patterns often begin very early in life. A child grows up watching how the adults around them talk about money. Perhaps they hear phrases like, "Money is always tight. We can't afford that. Rich people are greedy." Or perhaps they see stress every time a bill arrives. Slowly, without realizing it, the child begins forming an emotional relationship with money. Not a logical relationship. An emotional one. Money becomes associated with anxiety, with fear, with limitation. And those emotions quietly shape the way the person approaches financial decisions for the rest of their life. Years later, the same person may want wealth. They may even work very hard to earn more. But deep inside, their subconscious beliefs are still sending a different message. A message that says, money causes problems. Money is difficult. Money creates stress. And when those beliefs exist, people unconsciously push wealth away. They avoid risks that could improve their life. They hesitate when opportunities appear. They sabotage progress the moment it begins. Not because they are lazy, but because their internal programming still associates wealth with danger. This is one of the hidden reasons many people stay financially stuck. But there is another pattern even more common. It is the pattern of short-term comfort. Human beings are naturally drawn toward immediate pleasure. Food, entertainment, distraction, convenience. None of these things are harmful on their own. But when immediate comfort becomes the primary goal of life, long-term progress disappears. Imagine two individuals at the end of a long workday. Both feel tired. Both want relaxation. The first person chooses the easiest path. They spend the evening scrolling endlessly through their phone, watching videos, consuming entertainment. Hours pass quickly, but nothing meaningful changes. The second person also rests, but they invest a small portion of that time in growth. Perhaps they read. Perhaps they study a new skill. Perhaps they plan a project they want to build. The difference may seem small in a single evening, but repeated over months, repeated over years, that small difference becomes enormous. One life slowly expands. The other life remains exactly the same. This is the quiet trap of comfort. Comfort feels harmless in the moment. But when repeated daily, it slowly steals the future. Now consider another pattern that keeps people financially stuck. The pattern of comparison. Many people measure their life against the people around them. If their friends are struggling financially, they assume their situation is normal. If everyone in their environment believes wealth is impossible, they adopt the same belief. But comparison is dangerous because your environment often reflects the past, not the future you are capable of creating. Imagine if every inventor had compared themselves only to the average thinking of their time. Electricity might never have been developed. Airplanes might never have flown. Computers might never have existed. Progress requires stepping beyond the expectations of your surroundings. Wealth requires the same courage. It requires believing that your future does not have to resemble your past. But perhaps the most powerful trap of all is something far more subtle. It is the habit of blame. Blame feels comforting. If the economy is the problem, then you are not responsible. If your background is the problem, then you are not responsible. If other people are the problem, then you are not responsible. Blame protects the ego, but it also destroys progress. Because the moment responsibility disappears, so does your power to change anything. Successful individuals understand this deeply. They do not deny the existence of challenges. They know the world can be unfair. They know circumstances can be difficult. But they also understand something else. Responsibility is power. When you accept responsibility for your growth, you regain control over your direction. You begin asking different questions. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you ask, "What can I learn from this?" Instead of asking, "Who is responsible for this problem?" you ask, "How can I solve it?" Those questions change your entire approach to life. Because the moment you begin searching for solutions, progress begins. And progress builds confidence. Confidence encourages action. Action creates momentum. Momentum creates opportunity. This is how financial transformation begins, not with money,